Dr. Gangrene Presents is made possible in part by Rick's Comic City. Welcome into the lab tonight. I forgot that this was the night that Dr. Gangrene Presents airs. I was out making house calls to some of the villagers here on Shackle Island. I tell you what, treating the monsters is bad enough. Treating humans, now that's really scary. Speaking of scary, tonight's movie is a good one and a scary one. So stick around, stay tuned. You don't want to miss any of it, and we'll see you guys back here at the break.
A holiday in one of the most breathtakingly beautiful spots on Earth. The spectacular Swiss Alps. What better place, what better way for a man to have his last taste of absolute soaring freedom? But part of the exhilaration of this thrilling sport is the undercurrent of danger, the ever-present threat of accident, the dizzy leap into space. This pure white world seems an unlikely place for murder. But watch these two men closely.
Lucky I saw you go over. Here, have you got the rope?
Yes. One good snow and I might have been here till the Edelweiss bloomed.
Here, catch.
Right, got it.
Now, just hold on there a minute and I'll have you out of it.
Let's hope so. Oh, come on, man. Knot it. It's a good thing Nancy can't see you. For your own sake, I hope you show a little more efficiency as a bridegroom next week.
Oh, come on now, Colin. Can't a man lying on death's ledge be allowed a little bit of humor? The trouble with you, Colin, is you're so confoundedly sensitive, always reading innuendos into things. You don't have to tell me what you're thinking. It's written all over your face. You're thinking, Nancy again. As if he knew what she liked better than I do. Isn't that right? Well, come on, man. What are you waiting for? Colin, for the love of God, what are you doing? Have you lost your mind? Colin, for the love of God, don't leave me here, please! Colin!
Despite Peter Duncan's untimely death in the Swiss Alps, Colin's wedding date was not changed. And so, a few days later, a properly shaken bridegroom arrived at one of England's more stately mansions.
Afterwards, we became separated. Eventually, when I got back to the lodge, Peter wasn't there. Then, of course, I realized something pretty drastic must have happened. So I organized a search party. But then this snowstorm suddenly came down.
How awful. How simply awful.
Yes, well, I think you know the rest. By the morning, when we finally found him...
Was it true? Was he really frozen?
Gillian, darling.
I'm sorry to upset you, Nancy. I realize I shouldn't have explained it in quite so...
In such detail, perhaps not. I suppose you stayed for the funeral.
Oh, yes. You know, the chapel in the village. It seemed the simplest way.
Were you the only one there?
The only one there? But I told you, Nancy, I wasn't there. I lost him.
No, darling. I mean, at the funeral.
Oh. No. His father and sister came from London, and then there were other friends from the lodge.
So sad to think of poor sweet Peter. Miss Little, won't you come downstairs for a cup of tea? Come along, Gillian.
Was he frozen solid?
What?
Gillian!
Colin, I realize what a strain this all has been.
And so it would seem to have been to you.
Well, of course, I was very fond of Peter.
Indeed?
Well, you know that I was.
Oh, yes, I believe you were.
Do you like my dress?
Yes, it's quite beautiful.
I'll just take it off. I'll only be a moment.
Nancy, you seem to be bearing up remarkably well.
I do?
Yes, no tears. Unless you shed them all.
But, darling, I didn't cry.
Oh? Why not, Nancy? Why not?
Colin, I'm afraid I don't understand what's on your mind.
Should there be something?
Well, I don't know whether there should be, but I certainly sense something.
Oh, please, Nancy, please be honest about it.
Honest about what?
About Peter. You know perfectly well you were more than just fond of him. In fact, if you felt you hadn't been obliged to be married to me, you'd
Colin!
have... Well, it's true, perfectly true. I'm not quite so unobservant as you and Peter may have thought.
How can you stand there and insinuate? Well, that's ridiculous. Peter never meant anything to me, except that he was your friend. And if he hadn't been your friend, well, I don't think we would have exchanged a half dozen words. Are you suggesting for 1 second that Peter and I...
I'm not suggesting anything.
Colin.
Well, you two always seem so
So what?
devoted.
Devoted? What do you mean?
Nothing, Nancy, nothing.
We'll pop back in with more of Dr. Gangrene Presents after these messages. What's the term for a ghost that physically moves objects? Answer after these messages. We all love our furry friends, but to keep them and others safe from harm, it's important to observe leash safety. Never allow pets to roam freely in neighborhoods, parks, or busy streets. Make sure your pet has a collar tag with their name as well as your current contact information. And remember, never approach a strange animal without asking permission first. Our pets need us to protect them, so unleash caution and go green with Dr. Gangrene. What's the term for a ghost that physically moves objects? Answer, poltergeist. Hey, welcome back to Dr. Gangrene Presents, the show that's a step up from the competition. That was corny.
Do have some of these fresh strawberries the Bromley sent. It was very thoughtful of them, don't you think?
Oh, yes, it was.
Oh, my dear. My poor boy.
What's that?
Oh, well, what I mean to say is, here have I been prattling on like a fool, and all the time I planned something so differently. Colin, oh, this has been such a nasty business for you, and such a shock.
Yes, of course it was. I can't deny that.
Well, it just doesn't seem fair.
Not fair?
Well, I mean, after the beastly time you had after the war. Goodness me, you certainly had your share of emotional stress. Oh, dear, I'm not putting it very well, am I? But you do understand.
Oh, yes, Elizabeth. I understand very well indeed. I do quite understand what you're trying to say. You're referring to my crash in the Spitfire, England's finest hour.
Colin!
And I became a patient in a hospital for mental disorders, a prize patient.
Of course, after that long, trying time, and now this.
But I can hardly see any connection, Elizabeth.
Well, I'm simply saying, dear, that it doesn't seem fair for you to have so many emotional upsets.
Oh, I see.
I mean, Peter Duncan was your best friend.
Yes, of course he was.
Believe me, the first thing that Nancy said when we heard... let me see, your letter came...
Well, what was the first thing that Nancy said?
Oh, yes, of course. Well, she read it, and then there was a very long pause, and she said, "Oh, no. Oh, no, Mummy. Oh, no."
I see.
Well, then I took it and read it. And all I could see was Peter's lovely smile. And his dashing way. He was such a dear, naughty boy. No, it's just too much to accept. Too much. As Nancy said.
What did Nancy say?
Well, Nancy said it was positively ironic.
Ironic?
What else could you call it? Big, strong man like Peter, who'd come through the war without a scratch, sound and whole, and both physically and... Oh, dear. Well, anyway, I suppose you must get very upset when you think about him alone at the last, with no one... Oh, my dear, I'm just turning the knife in your heart with every word. Oh, I am so sorry. Do forgive me.
Colin, love, listen to me. I've been so upset during dinner, and even after. Well, as a matter of fact, ever since this afternoon when you walked out like that.
Please, darling, may we forget about it?
But I don't really see how we can forget about it, darling. After all, we're getting married tomorrow. And yet there's this barrier between us. Colin, love, if I said anything to possibly...
No, you said nothing, darling.
But I must have. Colin, do you love me?
No, I do.
And you must know that I love you. Yet I feel that I am to blame for upsetting you because I know you so well. And I know how sensitive you are. And I know how much Peter meant to you.
Please, darling, maybe just not talk about Peter anymore.
Of course not. But I do want you to know, darling, that we are not mere childhood sweethearts anymore. Well, all last year, ever since the war, I've watched you come back. And I've watched you come back to me after... Well, sometimes, Colin, I was even afraid that you would never get back to yourself even. So, darling, please don't withdraw. Don't withdraw again. And don't let's have any secrets.
What secret do you mean?
Well, it occurred to me that since that outburst today, that you were probably trying to tell me, well, since the ordeal you've been through, that you would rather postpone the wedding.
Postpone it? You mean call it off?
Please believe me, darling, it doesn't have to be tomorrow. I mean, we could wait a bit longer. A week or a month even.
I see. So that's what you really want.
Well, no. Colin, that is not what I want. I want you. That's all I want. And I want you to be happy.
Then, darling, please marry me now. If I felt I'd ever lose you, I'd rather be dead myself. What is it, my dear? What is it?
I don't know, really. I suddenly felt a chill. A peculiar chill.
It's nothing, darling. It's just the night air.
Oh, Colin, I do love you, darling.
Hey, glad to see you survived that part of the movie. The good news, we've got more Dr. Gangrene Presents coming up. The bad news, you gotta sit through the commercials first. What year was the film Poltergeist released in theaters? Answer after these messages. it right there. Don't you know that wherever litter starts, it moves? From parks to streets, from highways to waterways, wind and weather move trash around the community, spreading disease and creating hazards for animals and wildlife. Always clean up your own mess and dispose of trash in a proper receptacle. You pack it, you sack it, and remember to go green with Dr. Gangrene. What year was the film Poltergeist released in theaters? Answer, 1982. Welcome back to the finale of tonight's featured fright film, and we'll see you ghouls back here in the lab afterwards.
Thank you, Wilson. Everything all set now?
I think so, sir.
Good.
Excuse me, sir.
What's the matter, Wilson?
It's just that these are so icy cold.
The brushes, huh?
Well,
What are you talking about?
See for yourself, sir. It's just as if they'd been left out in the snow all night, sir.
Oh, nonsense, Wilson. You've been left out in the snow all night, I think.
When are they coming, Aunt Elizabeth? I want Aunt Hazel and Uncle Fred be here. Aunt Liz?
Oh, Gillian, do contain yourself. The whole family will be here soon. Soon enough, indeed. Come and help me with these flowers.
Oh, how beautiful. Oh, how heavenly. Colin, oh, Colin, look. It's a bridal bouquet. Just arrived.
Oh, Jill, they're quite lovely.
Gillian, come and hold this for me, please.
Yes, Aunt Elizabeth.
Colin, let me see how handsome you are.
Yes, dear.
Oh, marvelous. You should get married every day.
Aunt Elizabeth,
Yes?
look what's happened to the flowers.
What? What?
They're frozen stiff.
Oh, that fool florist. He must have left them in the refrigerator all night. I swear they're like ice.
But Aunt Elizabeth, they weren't. Just a moment ago when Colin and I...
Well, don't worry about it, Elizabeth. They'll thaw out in a minute or two.
Colin, the flowers will be all right. Don't let it upset you.
I'm not upset.
Oh, yes, you are. It's only natural. All bridegrooms are nervous. Oh, but cooking will make it all right. Cook is simply marvelous with catastrophes.
They're frozen stiff. I'm really glad it's just a small wedding, aren't you? There'll be all the more cake. Why, that's wizard. I didn't think anyone could do that, except in the winter. When it's cold. Colin, please show me how.
Please, Gillian, would you leave me alone for a little while?
I'm sorry.
I beg your pardon, sir, but if you'll permit me...
Oh, yes, yes. Please, please.
I understand it won't be long before the guests begin to arrive.
Why don't you tell me how you do it?
beloved, we are gathered together here in the sight of God and in the face of this congregation to join together this man and this woman in holy matrimony. Wilt thou have this woman to thy wedded wife, to live together after God's ordinance in the holy estate of matrimony? Wilt thou love her, comfort her, and keep her in sickness and in health?
I will.
And forsaking all other, keep thee only unto her, so long as ye both shall live.
I will.
Wilt thou have this man to thy wedded husband, to live together after God's ordinance in the holy estate of matrimony? Wilt thou obey him and serve him, love, honor, and keep him in sickness and in health, and forsaking all other, keep thee only unto him, so long as ye both shall live?
I will.
Who'll give this woman to be married to this man?
I do.
I, Colin, take thee, Nancy, to my wedded wife,
I, Colin, take thee, Nancy, to my wedded wife,
to have and to hold from this day forward,
to have and to hold from this day forward,
for better, for worse,
for better, for worse,
for richer, for poorer,
for richer, for poorer,
in sickness and in health,
in sickness and in health,
to love and to cherish,
to love and to cherish,
till death do us part,
death do us part,
according to God's holy ordinance.
according to God's holy ordinance.
And therefore I plight thee my troth.
And therefore I plight thee my troth.
I, Nancy, take thee, Colin, to my wedded husband,
I, Nancy, take thee, Colin, for my wedded husband,
to have and to hold from this day forward,
to have and to hold from this day forward,
for better, for worse,
for better, for worse,
for richer, for poorer,
for richer, for poorer,
in sickness and in health,
in sickness and in health,
to love, cherish, and to obey,
to love, cherish, and obey,
till death us do part, according to God's holy ordinance.
to death us do part, according to God's holy ordinance.
And therefore I give thee my troth.
And therefore I give thee my troth.
3. With this ring I thee wed, with my body I thee worship,
With this ring I thee wed, with my body I thee worship,
and with all my worldly goods I thee endow,
and with all my worldly goods I thee endow,
in the name of the Father,
in the name of the Father,
and of the Son,
and of the Son,
and of the Holy Ghost.
and of the Holy Ghost.
Amen.
Amen.
I now pronounce you man and wife.
What is it, darling? What's wrong?
Nothing.
Yes, there is.
No.
Yes, Sonny, please tell me, what is it? What's the matter?
Let me go. Let me go. I'm freezing. Please let me go. I can't stand it.
Nancy! 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 Nancy!
Well, that's it for this week's episode of Dr. Gangrene Presents. Be sure to join me on the Worldwide Weird at drgangrene.com and drop me an email at drgangrene@hotmail.com and let me know what's going on with you and what you'd like to see here on Dr. Gangrene Presents. No, we can't show Universal movies and we can't show Hammer movies, so don't even ask. But we will show you some crappy old public domain stuff. We got lots of that in store. See you next week, Fright fans. Stay mad!